Hi everyone, it's Michael K, and I've got another replica airguns video for you. Today we're looking at the Baikal Drozd, I'll call it the Classic. It's the MP-661K version. Now there's also a newer version called the Drozd Blackbird, and I will do a little bit of a comparison of the two products, but not too much detail on that. Now this is a BB machine gun, 4.5mm steel BBs. Now this gun is not really a replica of any particular gun, but if you were to take the stock off, and if you had the original barrel, now this is an aftermarket longer barrel, but the short original barrel is much shorter. If you were to take that all off, it would look a little bit like a BB submachine gun. Now the Drozd does come in a box with a manual, but I purchased this one from a friend, so I didn't get everything with it. I did get the gun, that's the main part. Now as far as I know, this is one of the first consumer-based electronically operated, and what I mean by that is the trigger is electronic. The propulsion method is CO2 on this one. But this is one of the first consumer electronically operated BB machine guns. Now it uses the 12-gram CO2 cartridges, so the small guys. Shoots 4.5mm steel BBs, and it does come with this BB magazine feeder, which is very useful. Again, it shoots 4.5mm steel BBs. It has a claimed factory feet per second rating of somewhere in the neighborhood of 340 to 500 feet per second. Now I'm not really sure why it varies so much, but I can tell you it definitely shoots faster than that. It also has a 1, 3, and 6 shot burst mode, and it also has a 300, 450, and 600 round per minute selectable settings. Now the magazine on this gun is a 30 round magazine, and it also holds the CO2. We'll take a look at that later. Now the barrel on this gun is rifled, but the actual original Baikal barrel is rifled as well, and it's metal. This gun in factory condition weighs about 3.5 pounds. Now the one we're looking at now is quite a bit heavier with all the additions. Again, I want to mention it has an electronically operated trigger, so it's not single or double action. It's basically an off-on switch that operates a solenoid. Now I've added this metal rail to adjust the height of my red dot scope so that it sat a bit higher, but there is a short rail that you can put a Weaver or Picatinny style scope on if you'd like. Now the Baikal Drozd is mostly plastic, but I'd rather call it polymer because it's very high quality plastic. It's basically weapons grade plastic. And of course there's a lot of metal parts within the gun. The barrel's metal, a lot of the parts inside the magazine and internal parts are all metal as well. Alright, so let's quickly take a look at the left side of this gun. Now you notice we have our branding, made in Russia, Baikal. I have a serial number here. Now this is your power switch. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but when you turn it on, you push it down to turn it on, and you'll see a red LED light from the top. You'll see it. You can see it there a little bit. Pushed it up to turn it off. So that's basically your safety. Now then you have your burst modes. When you're in the back position, that is 1, so 1 round. Then you have 3 round burst, and then you have 6 round burst. That's the factory settings. Now if you get the mod chip like I have here, it does change things up a little bit. Let me give you an example of how that works. Now again, this trigger is electronic. It's just basically an off-on switch that operates the solenoid. Now the solenoid hits the CO2 release valve. This gun has a removable plastic stock. Now you can also extend the stock by putting an adapter piece on and then putting it in the gun like this if you want it a little bit longer. I prefer the short version. Now I found that if sometimes adding a little bit of tape to it makes it a little bit firmer in there, because sometimes it likes to pop out a little bit once it's worn in. Now in the front we have the battery compartment here. I'm not going to take it off, but you just pop this down and up and you have access to the 6 AAA batteries. Now on this gun I've added an aftermarket barrel. This is a Jim C Innovations barrel, and it does actually increase the feet per second because it's quite a bit longer. The stock barrel would pretty much almost be flush with the front, a little bit longer. The stock barrel is metal, but it's shorter. Both the barrels, the stock and the aftermarket, are also rifled. I'm going to take out the magazine now just to show you. You've got the magazine release here. Your magazine pops out. To get at the CO2, you just basically pull this plastic part down, and then you can get at it. Now CO2 is a little bit tricky to get in. Sometimes if they're a bit long, you need to kind of use almost, I had to use a tool just to kind of bang it in. But you'll see it goes in there, and then you just tighten it up like that. Well, I'm not going to do it, but you tighten it up, close it up. When you want to release it, you just pull this back down, pull your CO2 out. Now to load the gun, I recommend you use this tool. You can load them if you want individually by pulling down the spring, as you usually do. But what I find is if you use this tool here, you can see they just kind of roll in quite nicely. Anyway, take that off. Alright. Now there's no CO2 in this gun, so we're still okay here. Okay, so on the right side we have our selector switch. And you can see here we have 300, 450, and 600 rounds. And these are the factory settings. When you put the mod chip in, what happens is only the 600 and the 300 round per minute work. Now when you're in 600, you can do the selectable single shot, 3-shot, or 6-shot burst mode at 600 rounds per minute. But when you flip it over to 300, you get 1200 rounds per minute unlimited when you have the mod chip installed. We also have our branding here, Drozd. We have the name of it, the MP-661K here, and this is just molded into the actual gun. And we also have our caliber, 4.5 millimeter, and that's steel BBs. I quickly wanted to mention the sights. This is the front sight here, but it's a little bit concealed by this rail that I have on here. But it's a fixed plastic sight, part of the polymer frame. On the back we have the rear adjustable sight. Now it's polymer with metal parts, so some of it's metal, and it's adjustable for windage and elevation. Now again, I've added this rail and I've basically mounted it to the frame, but underneath this rail there is a short rail mount for adding Weaver and Picatinny style scopes or red dots. Okay, this is a little tough to get both of these guns in because they're kind of monster guns, but I wanted to compare the Drozd Classic to the Drozd Blackbird, and you can see that the basic frame of the gun is almost identical. Now they have added this rail, and this rail comes factory with the Drozd Blackbird, so that's a nice addition. It gets it up just high enough that if you put a red dot on it, you clear the sights, which is why I added this rail to my original classic Drozd. Pretty much the same rear sight configuration and front sight configuration. Again, I've added another aftermarket barrel. This is another GMC barrel. This is the mock suppressor version from GMC, and this barrel, by the way, is the submachine gun version. Now on the Blackbird, you have this different style magazine, and the reason that it's different is because it's a hopper that has a motor in it, and you can see here you have this actual electric cable that runs up into the battery area that powers the motor, and I believe you can get around 600 or 700 rounds in this hopper. I've heard maybe even as much as 1,000. I haven't counted. But the motor feeds the magazine, and it's a very similar magazine, so you can actually put the regular Drozd magazine in here, but then you'd only be able to shoot 30 rounds. This gives you basically almost unlimited firing power. Another thing with this hopper is that you can attach different feeding systems, so you can have CO2 right here. You can see that I have a bulk air adapter. Now on the Blackbird you also have a different stock with the gun as well. Now on the Blackbird I've added these rails, and these rails could just as easily be added to the regular classic Drozd. I had to screw them in, and I had to do some basically a little bit of pre-drilling and screwing to get these rails on so I could add these accessories. But I really like the look of it. Now I quickly wanted to show you what a bulk air system looks like, and what we have here is we have a different magazine that's been modified for bulk air, and this fits in exactly the same. You just add your bulk air onto it like this, and then of course on the other end you could either attach this to a larger CO2 tank, or in this case we have a high capacity bulk air tank here that will propel a lot of BBs, and in some cases even faster than CO2, without having to worry about the gun cooling down, of course, as well. Alright, so quickly, I just have my EBOS here as another comparison. Now on my EBOS video that I did, and I'll put a link in here for it, I did compare these two products, so I'm not going to compare them again. If you want a comparison, and it's not an in-depth comparison, but you can go and watch my EBOS video. Okay, so now we're going to go outside. We're going to put this gun through the chronograph and shooting test, and we're even going to shoot some cans to see what kind of carnage this gun can do. So let's head outside and have some fun. Alright, so we're here with the Drozd Classic. Now this one has been upgraded a little bit. It has a longer barrel, a GMC barrel, and it also has the solenoid adjusted for optimal performance. So we're going to get a little bit higher than factory claims. Now the factory claims for this gun are anywhere from 340 to up to 500. It varies on different web pages, so it's really hard to guess what the actual feet per second should be for this gun. I believe some people advertise it a little bit low to kind of stay under the radar with this gun. So anyways, here we go. Now I'm using 12 gram CO2s with this gun, and I've actually shot off one magazine, so 30 rounds. So this gun will get about 2 magazines, so we're about halfway through the CO2. I wanted to give this another real world test, not right off a full CO2. So this is about what you'll get on average with this gun. So we're going to shoot 8 rounds right now. This gun's been sitting for a while. You can see that's pretty smoking. So we're coming down now because the gun's cooling down quickly. Still up there. 2 more. And well, 1 more. Alright, so we finished off at still over 500 feet per second. Now the reason this gun started off so high is because it was sitting around for a bit warming up. So that first shot was coming out pretty quick. But you'll probably get, especially if you're shooting in full auto, you'll get way closer to the 500 feet per second range. Okay, so let's head over to the shooting portion of this test and see how well this gun does from 30 feet out in a semi-rested position. Alright, so we're here with the Drozd. We're in a semi-rested position. We're at about 30 feet away, and I have a sandbag in the front here. We're going to shoot 8 rounds into the target. Now, I'm just standing in the back, so I'm not actually on a chair or anything, so the gun does float around a little bit, but it's pretty stable overall. Okay, so we're going to shoot 8 rounds first, take a look at the target. We're going to come back, and I believe I'll have about 14 rounds we'll do in full auto after that. Make sure the gun's on. Gun is on. We're ready to go. Okay, let's take a look. I'm switching this over to full auto. Alright, so we got a little bit of a scattered shot there. We were, I'd say that's about a 2-inch group, roughly, maybe just a hair over. At 30 feet, not bad for a BB machine gun. So we're going to head back. We're going to just unload this gun at 1200 rounds per minute, because this does have the mod chip. And we're going to shoot full auto. Whatever's left in here, about 14 rounds into this target. And here we go. I'm not sure if we got more. Well, I don't have the settings on this gun figured out just yet. I haven't shot it very much. There is a full auto. That was a burst mode. I believe one of these is full auto. I think we're out. I'm going to just see if this one's full auto here. Oh, 3. 6 round. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. Anyways, we'll use that on the cans next. Just learning this gun. Alright. So there you have it. Not too bad. I wouldn't want to be at the receiving end of that mess of BBs. And what we're going to do now is we're going to shoot some cans. And now that I've got the settings figured out for this gun, because it does have the mod chip, it's a little bit different than the factory standard. I had to put it on 300 to get full auto. So it's probably 400, 300, sorry, 400, 450, 600, and then over here on 300, because who would want to use that? That's full auto. And then we have the different settings for 1, 3, and 6 on the side. When you're in 6, you get full auto. When you're on the 300 button with this full auto mod chip that I have in here. Okay, so let's do the can section here. Alright, so we're going to shoot some cans with this Drozd. We got it set for 1200 rounds per minute at unlimited rounds. I only have 30 rounds in this magazine, so that's all we're going to shoot in, and they may be gone before I even get to the end of the magazine, so let's go. You guys turning it on is good? Here we go, we're on and we're live. Well, that did some work, didn't it? I don't think anything got wet this time. Alright, so let's head inside and let's do the rest of this review. So again, as always, when you're shooting these BB machine guns, they're just a lot of fun. and this gun was no exception shooting it, and I was very surprised at the feet per second. Now keep in mind I have this aftermarket barrel, and the solenoid has been adjusted for optimal performance. So this gun is shooting, I would imagine, a fair bit harder than a factory one would, but this will give you an idea of what the potential this gun has. Now with the accuracy portion of the test, the Drozd did pretty good. I mean, don't forget this is a BB machine gun, so most of the time you're going to be shooting this gun in full auto, so accuracy isn't going to be as important, but even so, the Drozd did really well. And of course, shooting the cans was an example of what you can do with this gun when you're shooting 1200 rounds per minute in full auto. Alright, so let's quickly go over some of the pros and the cons for the Drozd. Well, right at the top, it's a very, very well made BB machine gun. Yes, it's made out of plastic, but I would say it's a weapons grade polymer. Now this gun had excellent power or feet per second. The accuracy was equally good, given the fact that you can shoot 1200 rounds per minute out of this gun. I think you're going to be more than happy with what you can do with it. Now it does use the 12 gram CO2s, and this is a bit of a plus in that it is cheaper to use than the 88 gram CO2s, but does require more changing. Keep in mind that you can put a bulk adapter on this gun to use either large volume CO2 canisters or even bulk air. Now even the stock version shoots up to 600 rounds per minute with 6 round bursts, and the 600 round per minute option is one of the highest rounds per minute out of these electronically operated BB machine guns. I like that you have multiple stock lengths to choose from, and the stock even comes off if you wanted to. Again, the Baikal Drozd Classic has a rifled barrel, stock or aftermarket, depending on what you go with. The sights are adjustable for windage and height. I also like the fact that the magazine comes out and holds the BBs and the CO2, so you could have multiple magazines preloaded and keep the shooting going. Now with the Baikal Drozd, it's also really nice that this gun has a myriad of modifications that you can do to it. There's a mod chip to get this gun shooting higher rounds per minute and in true full auto. You can also add different barrels. There are even aftermarket stocks available for it. Now this gun would make a great pest control gun because of its high feet per second and full auto capability, especially if the pests happen to be the more mobile ones. Now as with all of these BB machine guns, I give it a 10 out of 10 in the fun factor. I've got a few cons on my list here I want to go over. The 12 gram CO2, again, it's a bit of a pro in that it's cheaper, but again, you've got to change it often. And when I mean often, you go through 30 rounds really quick. So then you refill that magazine again with another 30 rounds, and then your CO2 is done. So it's time to change it after that. So you can see you'll go through CO2 a lot. Now the top accessory rail, even though it's hidden on my version because of the rail that I've added, I found that the stock rail is a bit short and a bit low. I've also found that the rear stock on these guns can loosen up a bit, so you might have to add a little bit of tape to thicken it up so it stays in a little bit better. Alright, so that wraps this review up for the Baikal Drozd MP-661K, as I refer to it, the Classic. Now I do have this gun available in the Replica Airgun store, and I'm selling it right now for $289. Now that's the stock version without the modifications that I've done to mine, but you gotta start somewhere, right? Don't forget to check out my website, replicaairguns.com, where I have lots of articles and reviews, and in many cases, some of my articles even have more information than my videos, or at least different information. And don't forget to check out the Replica Airgun store, where I have the Baikal Drozd for sale, along with a lot of other air guns, blank guns, and accessories. Thanks so much for watching another Replica Airguns video, and until next time, take care and see you later.